All right, let's jump right in. For so long, when people talked about Indonesia, it was always a story about potential. But what happens when all that potential finally turns into cold, hard reality? That's what we're digging into today. The economic awakening of Southeast Asia's biggest player. And I'm sure you've heard this old line before, right? The sleeping giant. It was kind of this backhanded compliment. It meant, yeah, you've got all these amazing resources, this massive population, but you're just not quite delivering. It was always a story about tomorrow, about what could be, never about what is. Well, that's the big question we're asking. Because what if the giant isn't just stirring anymore? What if it's actually awake? The numbers are starting to tell a very different story. And frankly, the momentum is getting really hard to ignore. So let's just start with the raw scale of this thing. $1.4 trillion. That's the size of Indonesia's economy right now. That puts it in the top 16 on the entire planet. We're not talking about a regional player anymore. This is a bona fide global economic force. But what's really turning heads isn't just the size, it's the consistency. Think about the last few years. Global pandemics, wars, inflation, a total roller coaster for most big economies. But Indonesia, it's just been chugging along, locked into this super stable 5 to 5.2% growth. That's not just growth, that's incredible resilience. Okay, so how are they pulling this off? Well, the secret sauce is a massive strategic shift. They're moving beyond the old model of just digging stuff out of the ground and shipping it off. Let's break down the new economic engine that's really driving this thing forward. It really comes down to three key things. First, downstream manufacturing. Second, a booming digital economy. And third, really smart strategic investment. These three pillars are completely changing the game. All right, if there is one word you remember from all of this, let it be this one, hilirisasi. It basically means downstreaming. And the policy behind it is genius in its simplicity. The government just said, nope, we're not exporting our cheap raw minerals anymore. You want our nickel? Fine. You have to build your factories here in Indonesia and turn it into something valuable, like batteries. And why is this such a power move? Because of this number, 55%. That's how much of the world's nickel reserves Indonesia is sitting on. And in the age of EVs and battery everything, nickel isn't just some metal anymore, it's like the new oil. It is an absolutely critical piece of the 21st century puzzle. And this just lays out the strategy perfectly. You see, before, Indonesia was just getting paid for step one, digging raw ore out of the ground. Now, they're forcing the world to play the whole game on their turf, capturing value all the way up to making the actual EV battery cells. It's the difference between selling a bucket of dirt for a few bucks and exporting a high-tech component worth thousands, a total game changer. So at the exact same time all this industrial stuff is happening, there's a whole other revolution going on. While they're building these massive factories, they've also built the single largest digital economy in all of Southeast Asia. We're talking over $130 billion and growing. And just look at these projections. The growth is just explosive. E-commerce alone is set to basically triple in the next few years. But it's so much more than just online shopping. This is a massive boom in digital payments, ride-hailing apps, you name it. It's changing the very fabric of how millions of Indonesians live and work. But underneath both of these incredible stories, the industrial one and the digital one, is Indonesia's ultimate trump card. It's their one unbeatable advantage that nobody else can copy. And it's this: 280 million people. Let that sink in. It's the fourth most populous country in the world. What that gives you is a massive domestic market. So even when the global economy gets rocky, you have this huge internal engine of consumption that just keeps things moving. And here's the kicker. It's not just a big population, it's a young one. The median age is only 29. I mean, compare that to a neighbor like Thailand, where it's 40. That youth is what economists call a demographic dividend. It means you have a constant stream of new workers and new consumers hitting the market year after year after year. It's a powerful, natural tailwind for decades to come. Okay, but let's be real. This amazing story isn't a sure thing. There are some serious hurdles on the road ahead that could definitely throw a wrench in the works. So, on one hand, you've got real risks. The middle class is feeling squeezed, the country desperately needs more power plants, and they're still a bit too tied to the whims of global commodity prices. But on the other hand, the opportunities are just huge. I mean, landing a big trade deal with Europe, unlocking their insane potential for green energy, becoming the go-to alternative as companies move supply chains out of China. It's all on the table. It's a high-stakes balancing act.
So, where does this all land? Well, the most likely outcome, the base case, is that they just keep doing what they're doing, a steady ascent with that solid 5-ish% growth. But check out the bull case. There's a 25% shot they could hit a breakthrough, getting into that 6 or even 7% range. And to be clear, that's not just good growth. That's economic miracle territory, the kind of thing that turned South Korea and Taiwan into the powerhouses they are today.
And that really brings us right back to where we started. The whole idea of a sleeping giant, that story is over. The evidence is pretty clear. The giant is not only wide awake, but it's starting to run. So I'll leave you with this final thought. When you put it all together, the critical minerals, the sheer demographic scale, and this incredible digital boom, you have to ask, are we watching the beginning of Asia's next great economic success story? Because based on everything we've just seen, that's a question nobody can afford to ignore anymore.